I had heard it was coming. A big, heavy, strong plane that could fly a GoPro without trouble. Oh yeah, it was going to be a game changer. A DJI clone that would sell for only a little more than $100. It was to be called the Syma x8C. Now I already had a Syma X5 and I loved it. And I was on the internet watching the trade show videos, and I was checking the Banggood site every day to see if it was in stock yet. And the day it arrived, I ordered. 14 days later, it showed up. I was like a kid at Christmas. I couldn't wait to rip the packing off and get right to it. When I pulled it out of the box, I was astonished to see it actually looked like a DJI Phantom. Now, there was some assembly required, but if you can't do this sort of thing, you shouldn't be flying one of these. It is more difficult than it needs to be because the screws they give you, the Phillips heads, are cut poorly and they don't fit the screwdriver they gave you or Craftsman screwdrivers. But even so, 15 minutes later, you'll have the plane together and ready to fly. Now, I think most people who are interested in this plane are probably X5 owners who want to fly a high-definition camera. So let me show you the difference in scale here, which you don't quite often see. It's actually kind of astonishing when you see it in person. You may be going to a public park and flying your X5 and convincing people that it's just a toy. It's not a real drone. You won't be doing that with the X8. To further the idea of scale, the battery on the X8 weighs 104 grams. The entire X5 weighs 103. The X8 itself weighs 1 pound 5 ounces, and that's with the stock camera. Figure at least another 7 or 8 ounces for a GoPro type camera. Now I know, warnings, you hear that, you say kiss my butt. But let me tell you, this plane is different. It weighs enough and has enough speed that it will go through house windows, smash car windshields, and seriously injure people if you're not careful. I call it the Wanderer. Watch this video of it taking off on a windless day. I'm exercising only throttle control here, and the plane is wandering back and forth across the sky. It's absolutely astonishing. I suspect the controller software is actually a warmed over version of the X5 software, and it really doesn't work very well with this heavier plane. You have to fly it constantly. The picture you see now is about as close as it's ever going to come to hovering. Everything must be planned out in advance, or you'll have a disaster. It does climb very, very well, and I suspect it'll go to multiples of the legal height if you want to. But it's a big, heavy, clunky plane that's somewhat difficult to control. The best way to drive it is under full power and drive it like it's an old V8 muscle car on a dirt road. If you do that, it's actually kind of fun, but it's never terribly precise. Given the weight and potential this has, I want to talk about the fail-safes. Now, if you've been flying an X5, you can actually use auto gyro as a kind of get-out-of-jail card free. It's going towards water, you just kill the power and let it auto gyro down. In this shot you're seeing here, I kill the power at 80 feet and it comes down at about 6 miles an hour. It's one of the nicer things about the X5 is it's not going to generate enough speed to hurt anybody or the plane itself. The situation with the X8 is considerably different. I was going to do the same test along the trees to see how fast it was going, and fortunately I decided to take it up quite a bit higher for the first test. It got going so fast in the first second and a half I panicked and hit the gas to pull it out. Keep in mind that the telephoto lens this is shot with makes it look like it's going a lot slower than it is. Keep in mind also, this is with the standard camera, not a GoPro. Right here, I panicked and hit the gas, and it took another 60 feet or so to catch. If it hadn't, it would have been in pieces. Now, there's also an emergency descent mode. When the battery gets low, it goes into this mode, or if there's some kind of problem, the controller software sits it into a controlled descent of about 8 or 10 miles an hour, but it comes straight down and it wanders as it does so. Now, the reason it went into this mode here, I'll talk about later, but watch that in the last 10 feet or so, because you can't control it when it's in this mode. It just veers off into the brush. Now, it also has loss of contact shutdown. This is probably one you don't want to try at home the way I'm doing it. I've turned the power on, and now I'm just going to shut the transmitter off, and 10 seconds or so later the X8 shuts down. Now, having seen that, let's go back and look at the auto gyro again. When this happened to me, I had one question in my mind as I watched it happen. So now ask yourself exactly how much jail time is involved if the X8 shuts down at 400 feet and craters into a playground full of kids. Now, the X5 has a reputation of having a weak transmitter, and the X8 transmitter looks almost identical. The controls are all identical, a little bigger. So I decided to test it alongside the X8. We have a strip of road here that has 700 feet of line of sight, and we went out and tested it by weighting down the plane at one end and having someone work the controller at the other. The results were astonishing. The X5 is about what they claim, about 100 yards, but the X8 had a range of 553 meters, and we were out of road at this point. It would have gone further. Now, that's a lot of range, plenty to get yourself in a lot of trouble with. Let's also take a look at the video here. The stock camera is advertised as being a 2 megapixel, 5 megapixel camera, which is of course impossible. So it's some sort of interpolation. When I tried it, the results were very strange. Some of the worst jello I have ever seen since the days of RC helicopters 10 years ago. However, the picture did look fairly sharp, and it intrigued me. So I decided, well, let me see. The camera pod is kind of slipshod and loose in its mount, and I thought that vibration might be causing the jello. So I made a little collar out of foam and double stick tape, which is pretty soft and deadens a lot of vibration, and then mounted it on the camera pod and wedged it down with a heavy rubber band. And of course, it didn't do anything at all. The jello was every bit as bad as it had been. So this was a dead end. But I was impressed with the way the video looks. So I took the pod apart and found inside what appears to be an X5 camera. Why they would have put it in this ridiculous pod, I don't know. But I decided that since it was sharper, I was going to take a look at the inside of it and see if it was different. And it appears to be virtually the same. The minute sensor and the little lens, basically 1992 webcam stuff. Although the numbers on the chips are slightly different. The X5 runs at 3.7 volts and 3.29, while the X8, the camera power is 5.0 and 3.29. So clearly there's something different about it. Otherwise they wouldn't have put a 5.0 regulated voltage in there. I decided to make a mount for the camera that I thought would decrease some of the jello. I covered the bottom of the plane with mailing tape and then made a bed for it out of double-sided picture mounting tape. This tape is really gooey, and if you don't put the postal tape on the bottom of the plane, you'll never get the picture tape off. So this is what it looked like after it was ready to go. I held it down with some real thick rubber bands. Now I'm jerking the plane around as I'm flying it here for a reason. You can see the picture does look considerably sharper than an X5 picture. It's not a bad picture, but I'm jerking it around because I thought it was skipping frames, and it is. It's dropping frames as you move it around, so that's not very good. Here's a video frame from an X5 camera that's been adjusted so the focus is good, and you can see this frame from the X8 is considerably sharper. Still in all, this I don't think is a reason to buy an X8. Here's a video frame from an SJ4000 1080p, and you can see it certainly has more pop.